Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of MilMarriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes. We have a special treat for you today. I'm super fangirling over here because we have none other than Joe, my gosh. Joe, say hello to everyone.
Hey, everyone. Happy December.
Yeah, I know. Happy December. We're launching the podcast and we're doing it in a big way. And I'm so thankful that you were able to jump on and talk about MilMarriage.
Well, I'm so glad that you asked me to, Bree.
Yeah, so I specifically wanted to touch base with you about the book that you co-authored. I mean, you have tons, let's go back. You have tons that you blogged about and talked about MilMarriage. So if you do not know, please go check out Joe My Gosh. There's so many resources. I'm definitely going to link that website in the show notes so that you can see. But if you've been living under a rock, you maybe don't know that she also actually co-authored a book called Modern Military Spouse. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and how you actually co-authored?
Sure. So Modern Military Spouse is a book that J.D. Collins, who is Semi-Delicate Balance, she writes Semi-Delicate Balance, and Lauren Tam, who writes Military Wife and Mom, and I put our heads together and said, what is the book that we wish we would have had when we were starting out our military journeys with our significant others? And so it is, it came from that discussion about, what are the things that we deal with right now? What is it like to talk to your fiance who's a world away and on a sketchy Skype connection?
Right.
What is it like to have kids and to do a PCS or, all of those, be away from your mom, for the first time, maybe in your whole life. All of those real conversations that go beyond the check boxes of, well, this is what, go to the deer's office, check, get your ID, check, those kinds of things. So we wanted to tell our stories in an authentic way and to be honest and really to have the kind of conversation with our readers that we know a lot of our readers don't have, the kind of coffee shop, sit down and just spill your guts conversations.
And I think that I love the fact that you use the word a conversation because that's what I felt the book was. Each lady dives into different chapters, giving their perspective on it, and it's really a conversation. It's like you said, at a coffee shop, you're around a table and you're just gleaning from the wisdom of someone saying, okay, these are the steps that you need to take to be successful, to survive, to know everything that you might need to know when joining this crazy ride called being a military spouse. So I absolutely love the perspective that this book takes, and I absolutely, because I'm all about MilMarriage, Chapter 4 just completely stood out to me, and I really appreciated a lot of the content that is packed into this chapter. We're not going to go over all of it, but Chapter 4, everyone, it is entitled Preparing for a Successful Military Marriage. So in the book, you're going to get tons of information, but we're just going to focus right now on Chapter 4 and the first 3 points, if you will, that kind of stood out. The first one was the spirit of possibility. Joe, could you kind of share, what did that spirit of possibility kind of mean to you? And how do you encourage people to go with that spirit?
That's a great question, Bree, because I think sometimes in military life, and honestly just in life in general, when something hard happens, a lot of people, myself included, tend to shut down and just say, well, if I can't have it this way, then I'm not going to do it, at all. Or you can't really see what an alternative can look like because you're so focused on the obstacle or what you can't have or the way you think it should be, but it can't be that way. Mm-hmm. And so the spirit of possibility kind of came out from conversations I've had with blog readers and, other people where I'll give a suggestion, try this, and it gets shut down. Well, we can't do that at all. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. If you can't do it this way, can you change it a little bit? Can you take the spirit of that and run with it? So, I see this a lot, especially when it's around communication.
Mm-hmm.
When John was deployed and we were engaged, we really, really worked hard to communicate in some way once a day, whether that was a quick IM that he sent me when he was right before he went to sleep, or a Skype or an email or even a letter, something like that. And I know that is not a possibility during deployment for everybody. We were lucky that he had a great internet connection most of the time.
Right.
And I know, like, for other, other branches, other MOSs, all those kinds of things, that might not be a possibility. But what is the possibility for your relationship? Like, maybe communication every day just absolutely isn't feasible. Well, what about once a week? Or what about writing open when letters for your submariner and sticking them in their bag before they, are under the ocean for like 5 months at a time?
Exactly.
There are ways that if you really want to connect and to make something work, you just have to think creatively. And it may not be your ideal, like, if we're really honest with ourselves, our ideal is most likely not deployment at all. You're not going to get your ideal. But what can you do to grow as a couple or to connect as a couple, and to be a happier person, a more fulfilled person? I know for myself, I was the first couple of weeks of John's deployment, oh my gosh, like, I was like a shell of myself. And I had a serious moment where I was like, is this what the next year is going to be like? Because I can't do it like this.
Yeah.
You have to find the joy and the possibility where you can.
And I love that you are hitting that. It's all about being flexible and in that spirit of possibility, as opposed to focusing your energy on what can't happen. I can't see you every day. You're not going to be able to FaceTime. You're not going to be able to get a call. We can't have a regular schedule like we're used to, as opposed to focusing on those things. You look at what you can do, and then you get flexible. I mean, maybe it pulls you out of your comfort zone. Maybe you don't like talking on the phone, but now that's the only means that you have of communication. So you're being flexible in those ways. Maybe you don't like writing letters, because although I like to write, everybody
Me
doesn't.
too.
Joe, you like to write. Everybody doesn't like to do that, but maybe that's how you become flexible, and you're open to the possibility of investing and flexing a little bit so that your marriage is still strong and consistent and growing throughout the course of a deployment. And then you also hit on the big C word. Everybody knows I love the C word, communication. And just because it's needed on both sides, like, both people need that. Your soldier, your airman, they need to communicate some things to you. They may have some stresses. Of course, there are some things that they cannot share, but getting some of that off of their chest and just listening to them, because, I love how people say God gave us one mouth and two ears. We should be listening more than we're talking. So that C word really holistically, not just talking, but also listening to what they have to say as the active duty member, and, asking them to do the same for us. to listen to the stresses of the day. As I was just mentioning, like my washer is broken. I love that my spouse will let me vent about the fact that I cannot do laundry. So those two things, having that spirit of possibility and also communication, two huge things that I absolutely believe will prepare you for a successful military marriage. And then the third, okay, Joe, you completely knocked me out with this one. I love the third one that we're going to talk about from chapter 4, settling debt. I'm going to just drop it. You take it and run with it. Explain to everyone settling debts. What does that mean?
I think it really focuses around trying your best not to keep score, and not to say, and it's so hard to do. I'm guilty of it too. It's not like my marriage is the epitome of perfectness. I think we all bring our baggage, and we all bring the debt settling need into our relationships, because it is really easy to say, well, I held down the fort here while you were over there, and you only had to worry about yourself, and I had to worry about the bills and the dog, and if you have kids, like it's so easy to get into that, so trying, and I think it's easy for the serving member to do that as well, because it's super easy to say, well, I'm over here without you, without the kids, I didn't get to pet Rover, you got to enjoy Christmas, and I was sitting here without anybody or friends or whatever, and so it can go both ways. And I think trying to look at each other and say, it's hard for both of us. Like, military life can be a beautiful, wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong. Right. But there can be really difficult parts of it for both members, for both sides of the equation. And so if you can try to keep that at your forefront, that is a daily struggle. I'm not going to lie. That's a daily struggle for me.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah, because talking about those scorecards, you're absolutely right. They are going to look different. You may think you are 3-0, and he thinks he's 3-0. Like that's just how it works out. You only see from your side when you're keeping score. And I love the quote that is that you have in that section from your mom that says when she told you that marriage is not 50-50, it's 100-100. And the reason why I just was like, okay, I love it, because you always go through that 80-20 and, you do your part, I do mine. But it's like, no, it's unselfishly, regardless of if you get anything back or not, you're not doing it to get something back. You are 100%, and you're trying to be consistent with your 100%, and that other person is trying to be consistent with their 100%. And I think that really evens the playing field, if you will, and put your scorecard down. Everybody's looking at it on the even playing field. We're on the same team, and you realize that your role on the team is just different, but you have to do 100% on your end, and they have to do 100% on theirs. And I absolutely love that quote, because it really drives home the reason why it's not going to get you anywhere to settle debt. So I love that.
But I think too, if you keep having this feeling like, I feel like I'm giving 120% and you're giving 5, or you have those 15 points on your card and you think that he or she has -40, then that comes back to the communication point, and not to get in a fight, but to say, honestly, this is how I'm feeling, and we need to figure something out, because I know that I'm going to become resentful of feeling this way all the time. What can we do? How can we figure this out? Because you may, in the conversation, your spouse may say, you know what, I've really dropped the ball. It's been difficult at work or whatever it is, or I didn't realize you felt that way. I thought you loved doing X, Y, Z. I thought that was your thing. I didn't realize you were doing it because I wasn't stepping up.
Right.
Or your spouse may say, I feel the same way. You know, I feel like I'm giving my all and you're not. And so I think if you can come to those conversations saying not at a point where you're like ready to lose your head and you just explode, but to say, you know what, this has been building up. We need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And have a productive conversation, that in the long run, it's so much better. Because, like, nobody likes to have, an atomic meltdown and, you know, be angry and upset for days on end.
Right. That is no one's goal.
No. That's awful.
And it's one of those things where I love how it just opens the door. It opens the door for you to learn something that you maybe didn't know because you're only looking at it from your side. That communication piece. I mean, it's the thread that's going to tie all of this together, and it's so important because, like you said, the other person really doesn't know. Like, let's be honest. In military marriage, there is nothing that can be assumed. You have to say it. Like, you have to communicate it. I cannot assume that my husband's flight was amazing because he came in a good mood. Like, it could be horrible, but he just, like, fixed his attitude and put on a happy face for me.
Right.
And I need to ask him, you know, how was it? How did it go? And I think that's a lot of just being in tune with one another. And, I mean, we're going off a little bit into the next section that we're not going to dive into because I want everybody to check out the book. Guys, please, please, please check out the book, Modern Military Spouse. The chapter continues into honesty and trust, deep dives for you to equip you, talking about legal documents, your marriage certificate and why you kind of need to have that like tattooed on your arm, birth certificates, IDs, photo IDs, all of this stuff to help you and equip you. But just to keep on these three, I mean, those three are just so foundational. And I love how they're all interwoven one into the other, because the same way that we're talking about, you know, the conversation to make you put the scorecards down. Okay, now that the scorecards are down, it jumps right back into the first one. Now what spirit of possibility are you going to use to fix whatever communication or whatever practices that you maybe need to adjust? It may be, like you said, I thought you loved to wash clothes every day. I didn't know you were just doing that because I wasn't stepping up. Well, what is a possibility that you could do? Is it realistic for the other person to pitch in maybe once a week or every other week based off of op tempo? You know, all of these things tie into each other, and I absolutely love that these are a huge plus in building the foundation of a successful military marriage. So, Joe, did you have any other thoughts, anything else that you might want to share with the book, or you could just leave us in suspense until they go check it out?
You know, I think I'll leave you in I can't even get the words out. I'll leave you in suspense. There are so many great nuggets of wisdom and things from JD and Lauren too. And, you know, they are wonderful women and great writers. And so, you know, it just adds another 2 dimensions onto what we've been talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being a part of one of the premier episodes for Hearts and Stripes. It is truly an honor to be having this conversation. Thank you so much for what you do for the Mil Spouse community. I know a lot of our listeners look up to you and your work. Please, please, please go check out Oh My Gosh. The link will be in the show notes, so you can use a lot of her writings as a resource. There's so much value in the content that she puts out. You can follow her on social media.
Okay, everyone, it is time to EYS. That's right, earn your stripes. So if you are tuning in during our launch month, December 2019, you have the opportunity to win your copy of her book, That's right, head on over to our Facebook group, Hearts and Stripes, to find out more details. This podcast is sponsored by B. Carroll Events for wedding and event planning and design. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few and the proud that aim high and are forged by love. Born ready. We are MilMarriage strong.